Harmonic minor doesn't have to be so confusing. So if you look up a song online and you find out, oh, the internet says Painted Black or Hotel California is harmonic minor, and you want to be able to play that or solo on that, it's really not as complicated as it sounds, and it's not as complicated as most people make it out to be. A lot of people will say, oh, well, you've got to use the harmonic minor scale and use that to solo over it. But actually, that's not quite accurate. And I would argue it's actually easier than that. So first, let's just look at what am I talking about here, harmonic minor. Lick in that little 2-chord sequence there encapsulates exactly what harmonic minor is. And the way to use it is we've got to be able to identify it. We've got to be able to identify the moment in a song that says, here's harmonic minor, and it's not as hard as you might think. So let's look at first what is natural minor, because we need to see, well, what is the difference, right? So natural minor key has a 1 minor chord, a 4 minor chord, and a 5 minor chord. So fine, if we were in, say, B minor, we would have a B minor, an E minor, and an F sharp minor. That's just 1, 4, 5, but notice that they are all minor chords. Now here's the difference. Whenever I'm looking at a minor song, I'm always looking at that 5 chord. I want to know, is it truly in natural minor, which would mean it's a 5 minor chord? Because if it's not, like it isn't in Hotel California, it's a dominant chord or a major chord. So let's look at that. Harmonic minor has a 1 minor chord, like usual, a 4 minor chord, like usual, but the 5 chord is either major or dominant. The point being that that chord has been altered. And since that chord has been altered, that means that we might want to change our scale slightly or just change one note at that moment. And that is the key, right? It doesn't necessarily mean, especially as rock and rollers, that we're going to learn the whole harmonic minor scale and use that over the whole thing. I mean, learning that full scale is good one day, but if you're new to harmonic minor and you just want to do it the Don Felder way, the Eagles way, just use the target note. Honestly, it's what I do almost all the time. It's a good option for a rock and roll setting, a blues setting. Is it a blues setting? Well, maybe, yeah. Actually, there are blues songs that use harmonic minor. There's Thrill Is Gone by B.B. King. It does have that 5 chord is a dominant chord. So yeah, even in a blues situation. So here's how we do it. We identify the chords, right? We look at those 3 chords, if it's got a 1, a 4, and a 5, and we see, oh, the 5 chord is dominant. Okay, but let's look at this chord, right? So if I'm playing, this is an F sharp 7 chord. Oh, I would say, okay, what's inside that chord? Or what I would say, what is different about that chord? Because ordinarily F sharp minor would have a minor 3rd, right? That would be there. I'm sure that note is there. But if it was F sharp major, it has that note, right? That is the major 3rd. So that's the note that is different. So all we really need to do is just target that note at that moment. And again, it's not all the chords of that song, especially not Hotel California. It's really just that moment. So we've got to have our ears open and we've got to be able to hear those chord changes so that we know when that chord comes around, we hit that note instead of that note, right? That's the minor. And you can just see that inside the chord. There's an F sharp major chord. It's a standard major bar chord. It's there, right? Or let's look at a different chord shape. We might play this way. We might call the C shape of a dominant chord, a C7 shape, right? That'll be C7 open chord. But way up here, F sharp 7. And I can see here, this note right here, that guy. That note is not in B minor pentatonic. There's the issue, right? if I play B minor pentatonic, I've got, right, I've got these notes here, but that's the note that's in the chord. It's the note that has been altered in that song, whatever the song is, in this case, Hotel California, or whatever. There's lots of examples. And that's the note that we want to target because that's the note that's been changed, that's been altered. The 5 chord is now a major chord or a dominant chord. That's the tastiest note. That's the one we want to hit, right? So when I play the B minor, the 1 chord, sure, minor pentatonic. Sounds good, right? But when I'm on that dominant 5 chord, listen to how interesting that note sounds. That sounds a bit weird maybe at first, but when you hear it in context, and indeed, the first lick, is the first lick in Hotel California? I think it is. It's the end of the first lick of the solo in Hotel California, Don Felder's solo, is, let's see, can I remember this? Oh boy. There it is, right? That is such an interesting, unique note. And I know there might be some of you out there who have learned to play that solo, and maybe you just memorized, oh, it goes here, it goes here, it goes here. And maybe you didn't even think about, well, what the heck is that note doing there? Where is that coming from? That's not B minor pentatonic at all, right? That's a weird note. And actually, it kind of sounds weird, but no. In the context of the song, when you hear those chords underneath, it sounds amazing. He even does that cool bend there. Half-step bend, bending the note that would be in normal pentatonic to that harmonic minor note, the major third of the 5 chord, you could say. Because the note is there, and he bends it there, right? So we could say, well, how incredibly clever that was. But it's not that hard if you practice targeting chord tones. Remember that when we're soloing, we want to think not just, oh, this song's in B minor, so I'm just going to use B minor pentatonic. We want to also think, well, what are the chords? What are the chords in the song? And what are the sweet notes for those chords? And in this case, of course, that is the sweetest note at that moment because that note hasn't appeared. It doesn't appear in the other chords. So you don't really need to memorize the whole scale, although the whole scale is pretty cool. It's actually maybe a bit too exotic for a lot of occasions in, say, rock and roll or blues. I mean, you don't hear B.B. King playing this on Thrill Is Gone, right? It's not the right vibe, and it's not the right vibe for Hotel California either. And I think that's why they use this different method. Honestly, it's the easier method anyway, and that is just targeting the cool note when we get to the cool chord. So the important thing again is to be able to recognize when a song is natural minor or harmonic minor. So, quick pop quiz. Let's say I have these 3 chords. This is D minor, and G minor, and A minor, right? Is that harmonic minor? That is definitely not harmonic minor because the 5 chord in this sequence is a minor chord, right? In order for that to be harmonic minor, it would have to be A major chord. You can hear how different that sounds. That is the sound of harmonic minor. It's a very strong 5 chord that really wants to resolve back to 1. So that's, in that case, that's D minor. Listen to that. That's the major third there. Wants to resolve back to the D minor. Question 2, what if I've got these 3 chords? I've got A minor, I've got F, and I've got E minor. Ooh, that sounds really dark and moody, right? Is that harmonic minor? Well, we got to identify what is the 1, the 4, and the 5, right? A minor, F. If it was A minor, the 4 would be D minor, so there is no 4. Is it a tricky question? It doesn't really matter. The 4, we want to find the 5. Which one's the 5 of A minor would be E minor. Is E minor, so therefore, it's not harmonic minor. It would have to be E major, right? That's a bunch of songs, isn't it? That's Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics, right? You know, it's also actually Smooth by Santana, isn't it? But it sounds completely different, but it's exactly the same chords. I think it's the same key, too. But then it's just got a Latin feel to it. So there's just a different division of those chords. So Smooth is like... But again, we see that major third of the 5 chord, the G sharp. There's G sharp in an E major, and we know, maybe we know, that in key of A minor, ordinarily, there's no sharps or flats. So what's this G sharp doing there? That is because, again, the 5 chord has been altered, and therefore, it has that target note at that moment, the G sharp. It exists in the same spot. You could just think of easy shape. It's there just like it was in Hotel California, which was B minor to that harmonic minor thing. This is A minor. And in fact, Santana does use the harmonic minor note. He plays it up here in what I would call shape 4, funny B string, A minor pentatonic, so that's my root, right? That would be funny B string shape, but the harmonic minor note is always right there. You could always just think of it as being a half step below the root. So if you know where your roots are, he's always right there. So what's his lick? So you can see it right there. That's that harmonic note. We can hear that really interesting sound that gives it that character, that unique character that doesn't exist in natural minor. But did I memorize the A harmonic minor scale to do that? I mean, I do know that. I better know that. I'm a guitar teacher. But still, I'm not really thinking about that when I just want to play harmonic minor in a rock and roll song. I don't even know a rock and roll song that really, or solo, that really uses harmonic minor in the sense of just playing the harmonic minor scale. I mean, do you know one? I don't even know one, and I've been teaching guitar for 16 years, and I've taught a lot of solos and songs here. I can't think of one, but there are many songs that use harmonic minor. They typically just use it in this kind of way, targeting that note when that chord comes around. Maybe the only one would be Paint It Black, right? Now, I know that's played with a capo. I don't have one here right now, but basically that one does ascend harmonic minor, I think, does it? Yeah, it's right there. That's the harmonic note there. Some kind of fancy, it's like classical music in that sense, right? And that's interesting. We could say that now he's really using the scale, but that is a moment that is definitely less rock and roll, I would say, right? That little intro sounds pretty classical in a way. In our Patreon group this week, we're going to go through some classic harmonic minor licks so that you'll be able to practice it, and we'll have a jam track that's just 2 chords designed specifically for you to practice targeting that harmonic minor note. So it's going to be just like B minor and F sharp 7. That's B minor would be the 1, right, in B minor, but normally the 5 would be F sharp minor, but we're making it F sharp 7, and you've got the harmonic minor note right there. So that jam track's going to have that so that you can practice just finding those. But it's really not that hard. You can picture the chord. Remember that when we're soloing, we want to think not just scale all the time. We want to picture chords. We could play the chord, but sometimes we're just picturing the chord so that we can see what are the cool target notes inside that chord that we want to hit. Now, if you want to learn more about target notes, I've got lots of videos on target notes here on the YouTube channel. You could try this one right here, or I'll see you on our Patreon this week. My name is Blue Morris, and I teach guitar lessons right here in Vancouver on YouTube and on Patreon. I'll see you soon.